Welcome back to Money 2020, Fintech Insider Live. I have the good pleasure of being joined by Brett Crosby from Peer Street. Brett, how are you?
I'm doing great, thanks. Having a ball at Money 2020.
It's been an interesting show. Tell me a little bit about who you are and tell us about Peer Street.
Yeah, so I'm the COO of Peer Street and co-founder. I come to this industry with my whole previous life was in tech, starting a company called Urchin, selling that company to Google.
Great name.
Thank you. Yeah, I loved it. That's good. A lot of ocean references and stuff for that company. Sold it to Google, turned that into Google Analytics. I spent 10 years at Google building that, and then a bunch of other things. My buddy from college reached out. His name's Brew Johnson. He was a former real estate attorney. So Peer Street takes his background and my background and meshes them together to create this really interesting new way of investing in real estate debt.
In real estate debt, that's interesting because prop tech is so hot right now.
It's so hot.
Everybody's trying to solve for the real estate market just because it's such a mess.
Yeah.
And you get to the point where it's kind of been predatory, post-financial crisis, it's not really fixed, and you've not really solved the problem that the consumer and the market has. But talk to me a little bit about real estate on the debt side. What bit of the market, should we zoom in a little bit on where that is?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Most people understand about investing in real estate equity. When they think about when they're investing in real estate, you're going to buy a property, you got to manage the property, fix it up, or live in it, or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Rent it out. But most people don't know about investing in real estate debt as an asset, and that's because up until now, it was not an easy asset to invest in. But ironically, almost everyone who has a 401k or a retirement plan or whatever is actually invested in real estate debt in some capacity through things like the PIMCO Total Return Fund, et cetera.
Yes.
But they're not directly investing, and they don't really know what they're investing in because it's like a tranche of a pool of a whole bunch of mortgages, and you don't know what's in there. They could be great assets, they could be toxic assets, right?
Nobody knows because these contracts are so convoluted and written from hundreds of other contracts that the person who wrote the first contract might not have seen the other hundreds. So.
Exactly. And we've read that book and seen that movie with The Big Short.
Yep.
So the public is generally more aware of that. But not much has been done to change that, and Peer Street is actively changing that. We're making it so people can, like you and I, can invest directly in real estate debt. We can pick and choose our deals. It's like investing in stocks via E-Trade or Schwab or something like that.
Interesting, so it's that retail-facing platform, really kind of creating almost like crowdfunding or crowd investing, really allowing people into an asset class that they can get into before, but doing so in a way where, how do you onboard that debt? How are you sourcing and originating that debt?
Fantastic question, and this is one of the key things that makes us different than most of the other one-sided marketplaces out there, which the one-sided marketplaces in our space are typically direct lenders who then allow people to invest in loans or equity, or there's a whole bunch of different things like that out there, and a lot of interesting companies. Our model's different. We're much more like an Amazon, where we're a two-sided marketplace, where we have lenders on one side and we have investors on the other. So we source our loans from private lenders who make loans to real estate entrepreneurs, right?
Interesting.
Yeah, and so our lenders, they know their local market, they know their the good borrowers in those markets, and they work with them typically multiple times on making loans to them, and then we vet the lender, we vet every loan, we double check the underwriting, we use a tremendous amount of technology to make all of it happen and the transfer of the assets, et cetera, and then we allow people to invest in those assets once we brought them on the platform.
So there's that school of fish, like the original eBay sort of thing, where instead of dealing with this one massive retailer, in this case one massive lender, you're dealing with lots of really small lenders, but you're able to build relationships with them, get to know them, and then use the data to kind of make that make sense.
Absolutely right. So we have 250 plus lenders scattered throughout the country that we work with, and that number is growing every day. And we're in over 40 states. So we allow people to diversify in loans across lender, geography, borrowers, use case for different types of real estate, et cetera. And investors can put as little as $1,000 in each deal, and then it's a passive investment. They don't have to do anything. They can just sit back and let it work.
So you guys have a lot of portfolio management to do there, I'm sure. So talk to me about, when did you launch, how many customers you got, and are you thinking outside the US?
We launched actually to the public here at Money20 3 years ago. So we're celebrating our 3-year anniversary right now, which is fun. Which is, Vegas is a good place to celebrate things. So we've done a bit of celebrating, and then So yeah, we launched 3 years ago to the public. We started in 2014, and we were an invitation only for about a year before we launched to the public. We've made a tremendous amount of progress and traction since then. Done about $1.5 billion in volume of investments through the platform.
Wow.
We're doing north of 100 million a month now, and things are going incredibly well.
That's great to hear. Well, Brett, thank you so much for being on Fintech Insider with us.
Yeah, thank you. This is wonderful, and great job on this program.
Thank you so much, and thank you for tuning in. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes with our next interview. Keep it locked right here on Fintech Insiders. Thank you.
All right, day 4, last day of Money 2020. You can tell because my voice is seriously about gone. Howard, how are you feeling?
I'm great,
right?
man. Yeah, it's been a long couple of days,
Okay.
but I've been excited.
I've known Howard for a while now. He's the most dapper man I've ever met until today, Manaz. You are.
I've been dethroned.
He has been dethroned by Manaz from Zappin. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We have a trophy.
Oh, you do have a trophy.
Just for you.
Oh my goodness, look at that.
All right, Manaz, Zappin. I like Zappin. I know quite a few people there. For our listeners, folks watching this that aren't familiar, can you kind of give a quick introduction to what Zappin actually is and what you do?
Sure. So we are a financial technology provider of relationship banking software, right? We primarily focuses on managing and enabling the bank's product and pricing innovations, right? So driving and incentivizing customer behaviors that are more customer-centric oriented rather than the the traditional product-centric approach to the way the banks operated in the past. Right?
Yeah, and that's really the sweet spot, right? It's actual engagement, but that benefits both the bank and the customer.
That's right. That's right. So the idea here is that as banks go down this journey of digitization, in the past used to be omni-channel experience, to be able to drive that consistent experience that is rewarding for the customer and the bank and make it a win-win is where we play, and we actually enable those strategies. Right?
I like that you use the word omni-channel because I mean when you think about Money 2020, and I think Money 2020 started I think around 2012, 2011, if I remember right. Mm-hmm. I would say back in those days, that was the big buzzword.
Oh yeah.
Right.
It was mobile wallet's going to change everything. These consortiums are going to come in and knock banking out of the way, and it was all that. And here we are, actually pretty close to 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And some branding change that I don't know what it's going to be.
Yeah.
But the whole concept, still today, as it was back then, was how are we going to transform banking? What's the future of banking? So I guess that's the trick question right now. We've talked about engagement, but
Right.
if you're to look forward, what do you think the future is, and what kind of role does Zappin play in that? And what are you doing to help drive that change?
So I think the future of banking is significantly going to change if they really want to become relevant to their customers, which means that there's this notion of banking as a marketplace, right, for financial service products and services that they can bring together. But I think it goes to the next level, and the next level is so banks can provide their own products and services through that marketplace to customers. They can provide third-party trusted fintech services, others in the market, like a lending fee could be part of a bank's channel that's offered as a service, as an example. But if you go beyond that, it's also providing what I refer to as lifestyle needs, right?
Yeah.
So an example could be, let's say a bank offers mortgages today to their end customers. Now imagine if a customer went to a bank's marketplace, they can purchase a mortgage, right? They can possibly go and get insurance on that mortgage. They can go and get additional services, let's say legal services, real estate services, Maybe they can buy their telco services, home, cable, internet, etc. So now, banking and banks in general become a very different type of players in the space, and they can actually take that as an opportunity to expand because it's exactly where the Amazons are coming from and going, so they got to start their journey, go the opposite direction to become that one-place shop for their customers. Because people don't have time anymore, they want things faster, so if you can package these services together, that's where it becomes very relevant.
Yeah, that's obviously been one of the buzzwords this year, as it was last year at Money 2020 Marketplace, right? And Howard, one of the other ones is the concept of open banking, right? Megan Kaywood from Starling. Hi, Megan, love you. Has been a rock star here, and several others. We've been talking about this concept of open banking, what we're seeing over in Europe, and obviously
the wave coming.
It's not that it's coming here. I disagree. I think it's here.
Okay.
It's just not widely distributed.
Yeah.
Probably a better way to say it, right? I mean, how do you look at that, especially from a Microsoft standpoint, and enabling partners like Zappin and others?
Yeah, I think it's creating this platform that's going to have that level of agility and be able to plug and play as you need to. We want to provide something where people can come in and build on top of what we're doing and provide a secure, very fast, very pliable type of experience. And you talked about omni-channel. Where we're going is omni-experiences. And how do you pull in APIs from different fintechs, from other banks? There's going to be a lot more around co-opetition as opposed to just pure who owns that customer. I think it's beyond just who owns the customer. It's who's going to own those key experiences. They're the ones that are going to win the hearts and minds of the customer. So open banking provides an avenue for us to be able to have all different types of business models that are being built that aren't even around today yet.
Yeah,
and our platform provides that.
I mean, you talked a little bit about that, right? The idea of just don't think of it as a product. It's different ways to have revenue models and engagement with that. And that's something that Zafin helps working with the customers to drive, right?
That's right, because today, if you look at how banks or financial institutions manage their products, their services, their offerings, incentivizing behavior, it's very distributed, right? It's not centralized. There's no way to go to one place to make decisions, to drive that experience, and make sure that experience is consistent across any
That's
channel,
the key.
right?
Got to be
That's the
consistent.
key, right? And that was a challenge at omni-channel. That they were trying to achieve that consistent experience across any channel, but they were not able to do it because it was a spaghetti web at the back, right? So how do you, unfold that? And in our view is that you need to remove certain functions and centralize them, right? So at a holistic level, which is certain things like product management, right, or pricing, or even customer, etc. And if you start doing that better, then you can get to that end state that you'd like to. And I think omni-channel is just an avenue through which regulators are pushing banks to do exactly that. So it's an opportunity, even though it's being forced on them, for change, right?
And it's not just consumer banking, right? It's both sides of the house. It's consumer and commercial.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And in fact, I started my career as a commercial lender, and that's one of the things I love about Zafin. I've got a huge passion around helping companies grow, and as a commercial lender, that whole managing the relationship and having a pricing model that made sense so that we could help that company but also make money for the bank, you need to have that level of sophistication. And back then it was spreadsheets and a ton of analysts in the back room doing hand calculations. And if you think about the handling risk analysis and risk management on portfolios, that's where you need to have much more sophisticated tools.
And that's where I get excited when you take the concept of a marketplace or open banking and apply it on the commercial side. Not that, consumer's important, don't get me wrong, but to me, there's been a ton of focus there. But on the other side of the house, there's a lot of opportunity there. And for providers like Zafin, when you do it right, it's a great advantage.
Yeah, and if you look at sort of the commercial banking space versus the retail, they're actually a bit further ahead because every arrangement that you have with a commercial customer is literally negotiated and customized for that customer. So which means that what are the fees you charge them for their payment services, what kind of deposit rates you may give them, what kind of trade facilities you give them, etc. So commercial loans, etc. Now try to bring that together in a holistic fashion, because today even those particular arrangements are done in silos and there's not a lot of tie-up, right? So as you said, when you go into this open banking notion, not only can you bring those services together, but you can add value to it. So logistics or supply chain management companies that can be incorporated into sort of the whole notion of trade and trade across banking, not only banking but across the business line itself, and how do you service the business customer better. So I think those are notions that would be very important and actually valuable on the commercial side.
Yeah, I think the last major buzzword and topic that we've heard over and over again in the past few days is around digital transformation, right? I mean, all of this sounds great, but if you still have that, the clunkiness, you talked about it, the spaghetti web, the Frankenstein beast, however you want to say it, in the back, if you're not addressing digital transformation, it's just talk, to be honest. And Howard, I know from your side, and from Microsoft and Azure and what you've been doing, that's your mission. That's your goal, is to help drive that message out with your clients. And luckily, we have clients like Zafin. Where
we want our partners, because Zafin is one of many of our partners, to help them do more. And they're going to their customers and their partners and helping them do more. So it's this groundswell of capability that we could continue to exasperate across different industries, different types of companies. And that, talked about the business models. We're here to be able to enable that in a very secure, very accelerated way. And partners like Zafin are helping do that. So.
It'll be interesting to see a year from now how much has changed, right? And what we're talking about. That's what actually excites me. Plus it'll be 2019, so all the pressure is on this conference to get the rebranding
Big
done.
Big pressure.
Big pressure. Last question, the glasses. God, those are good looking.
Those are awesome, aren't they?
Man? Can we get a side shot of this? This is a side profile.
Burberry glasses.
Just wins, Burberry glasses, baby. Well, folks, Microsoft Azure, Zafin, wonderful seeing what you're doing. Next year, let's get back together and get an update.
Absolutely.
All right, sounds good. Really appreciate
Thank
the
you.
time.
Thanks, Howard.
Always. Pleasure.
Nice cufflinks.
Oh, thank you.
We're supposed to be on red eye tonight, but I moved it up to a 2:30 flight.
Here we go.
Hi folks, again, day 4 of Money 2020.
Feels like day 4.
Feels like week 4 of Money 2020. That's pretty normal. Right, Howard? So we've got Howard from Microsoft Azure, Paul from Microsoft Azure, and Ted from AlphaPoint.
Yes.
Right before we started this, Ted had the best t-shirt quote I ever heard, which is, our customers want the full solution and we provide it. So we're done. That's the interview, and that sounds wonderful. So AlphaPoint, can you kind of give me a brief description of what AlphaPoint is, what it is you do?
Sure, we're a 5-year-old company. We've been around, well, almost 5.5, 6 years now. Started with 2 gentlemen out of the financial services industry, out of capital markets, CME Group and trading aspects of that. We are now 100 plus customers around the world, 36 countries, and we provide a platform for trading digital assets. So it's all about that new world of trading both real world assets and the crypto assets that people are expecting in their portfolios.
That's tremendous growth over a 5-year period.
It has been an unbelievable ride, yes.
So I'm curious, which country did you start in first?
We started really, you know, it was funny, the Caribbean was our first customer.
Really?
So BIT in the Caribbean.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, they actually provide a payment network with the central banks.
Yeah.
So they got together with the central banks and they built a platform where using the back end of digital currency, cryptocurrency, they were able to make transactions occur across borders. So everyone saves money, merchants and the people, because of that FX barrier.
So one question, a friend of mine, his name's Mark Hochstein, he used to be an editor at American Banker. I think he's at one of them now. Whenever we talk about crypto, when we ever get to this space, he always says, okay, why blockchain?
Yeah.
And I think that's a very fair question, because in the early days that just got tossed out as the panacea for everything. But the reality is for the companies that survived and thrived, AlphaPoint, you obviously addressed the question the right way. So when we're talking about this type of industry, why blockchain?
Well, for us, it was we approach it from the different angle than most, which is we see most people come at it with plumbing. In other words, it's a piece of plumbing you use to fix a problem, but that means also ripping and replacing what you have. So we came at it from, let's make some more money together. And when people...
By the way, I love that. Isn't that a nice answer? It's nice to make money.
It's easy, but they're surprised because I didn't know blockchain could do that. So that's where we started. And I think that's the biggest thing, is that the cryptocurrency craze started first. And of course we've ridden that wave and that's been great, but now that capital markets are picking up on it, we're moving into bigger and bigger and more robust accounts with lots of regulatory requirements and security requirements. So we were grown from capital markets, so we easily made the transition.
You know, it's almost as if you knew my next question, because that's where you go, right? When you talk about solutions like this, right? When you're addressing that, and especially when you have the term blockchain, but that technology stack involved, I think it's a fair point to bring in the regulatory side, right? And how you ensure you have the controls in place, which obviously you do if you're working across that number of countries and that number of clients.
We had to, we have customers like the CME Group and like XP Securities, largest broker-dealer in Brazil. We have these kinds of, so we couldn't do it without putting it together. So really the thing to start with is what are the business requirements they have, and then build to that. And that's typical fintech type approach. You say, well, if I need KYC and AML, you have to solve that for that problem. If you need regulatory requirements around GDPR and these kinds of things, around data protection, you have to build it. It just so happened all of our people are really ex-capital markets. They come out of the banks, out of Bloomberg. Our chief development officer is out of Bloomberg Trading Systems and Trading Screens, so he had done that 1,000 times before. And our CEO came from NASDAQ, so he was one of the group leaders at NASDAQ at the biggest business unit they had, Celio Donde.
Don't you find that kind of funny, Howard? And what I mean by that, I know Howard very well, right? But that diverse experience, I mean, you were an example of that. We've talked about this before.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're in capital markets with Microsoft Azure, but you've said this a million times, you're not a technologist.
Right.
You came out of the industry.
Right, I came out of the business.
And don't you think that's what you need to actually reach success like this, is to have that diverse background?
You do. And you have to understand the business models. I mean, where you're driving to grow market share, to grow revenue, you have to be able to have a feel for what is that technology that you're going to ride in, but do you have the objectives that are aligning that technology appropriately? And so with blockchain or with any other avenues to build markets, to build exchanges, you have to understand why are they operating the way they are, And as a platform from a Microsoft Azure standpoint, we build that pliability, that flexibility, both in a secure way. So we work with over 50 agencies from the regulatory agencies to help and make sure that they don't have to worry about compliance and security. We worry about that. They just worry about the business model, making it work.
Yeah, and I worked with Microsoft in my previous career as well, and here as well. They do have hosts of lawyers around the world that are expert in each geographic compliance, so they do a very good job. But what I mean by that is they work well with us that way.
Yeah. You can never have enough lawyers,
yes.
right?
We are laughing in a very good way.
Yeah.
For the lawyers. And Paul, I was going to ask you. I'm interested as a partner, right? And it really is a partnership, right?
It is.
You're working with Microsoft Azure. When you talk about what used to be a non-traditional solution like this, which I don't think it is anymore, right? You've proven the model out. But aside from lawyers, and what does Azure bring to the partnership? And we'll get lawyers out of the way. That's nice, we need lawyers.
Yeah, and I should say, Ted and I have worked together for a number of years, so it's great to see kind of the success him and the company are bringing. But I think with Azure, we're providing kind of core capabilities.
Yeah.
I mean, our goal is to have a thriving partner ecosystem and kind of remove and abstract away, kind of core plumbing, as you talk about, things like regulation, compliance, security, and so on, which are all kind of hard things, abstracting that away and provide a platform to innovate. And our heritage is really leveraging our partner ecosystem to build on our platform to drive new and innovative solutions. And I think the partnership we have goes much more beyond just the technology relationship, but it's also a business relationship, and we think about sales and go-to-market and so on. So I think end-to-end, we're looking to really sort of work very, very closely together. But at the core, I think with Azure, it's really providing a platform to allow you guys, hopefully, to really sort of achieve success and abstract away, sort of really some of the heavy lifting that, and let you focus on sort of high-value capabilities.
Could I add to that a little bit? There's one thing that I found in the 15 years of working at Microsoft is that they're not good at bragging. They're just, they get it done,
you really
they
aren't.
do their job.
I agree with that.
Right?
Telling their story, they're more do.
Just get it done.
Yeah,
right?
and not tell.
And when someone like as big as Microsoft comes and just says every time and time again, how can I help you?
Yeah.
Most people can't relate to that. So I would say one of the things for the listeners to know, and I'll advertise for Microsoft, is that their channel distribution, 95% of the revenue comes through people like us, and we make 6 to 7 times what they make when we sell a product. So it's a very nice partnership.
So one of the Achilles heels, if you go back, oh, that was my throat, Achilles heel, when it comes to very innovative solutions that got in early and were successful, like what you are, is remaining innovative, right? And remaining on that crust. So how do you do that?
So there's bleeding edge stuff that people do. We're cutting edge, I would say. And
I like
so
cutting edge better, by the way.
We jumped in bleeding edge, but then what you have to realize is as you said, the market is the market. You can't shift it overnight, particularly institutional markets. Retail, yes, right? Retail is what started this wave, and that's where it's pushed up against institutional. Institutional now has to face that demand and find a way to invest for those people that want investment in not just cryptocurrencies, but digital assets like real estate, infrastructure, luxury goods. Those are all the assets that we're entering into now. So it's lifting that $11 trillion and making it liquid. And so when you do that, you have to provide custody solutions, the sort of security solutions, AML solutions, money transfer solutions. And so we've bolted all this into the platform. So part of what we've done is said, look, we don't need to do everything well. Lots of people do it, and there are recognized brands that we can use to leverage our core, which is the ability to trade and invest in 11 trillion in digital assets.
And Ted, you last night you blew my mind on a couple of examples that you had that were some cool examples of how you take an illiquid asset and create a market for that. You would just take us through just one of those examples.
Yeah, okay, so we have some things publicly I can talk about out of the 100 plus customers. There's Muirfield Investment Partners is a private equity fund in Boston, and this is where we see the biggest growth coming the next 3 years, is from areas like private equity, where it's still very illiquid. You and I can't invest in cobalt and lithium, but Tesla's digging it out of the ground as fast as they can and making batteries. If that's going up 127% per year, I want that in my 401k.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Right? And you and I can't get it right now, and that's our job. And with people like Muirfield bringing and digitizing those assets now in a traditional model, that is a limited partnership, an SPV, that's a legal structure people recognize, so the street doesn't doesn't see anything different. What we do is just provide a technology stack, tokenized technology stack, that lets them do it with less friction, with a wider range of investment opportunities. You and I can now invest in this stuff, so they can do it more often, faster. And by the way, that's what Wall Street's done for, well, the world has done for 300 years. So the NYSE was started under an apple tree in Manhattan, and before that, you and I couldn't invest in a stock, and then that day you could. And that's all we're doing with these other 50 trillion in assets as we bring them online, is making sure that everyone can invest and grow.
Well, each of you here are engaged in something that I'm an extremely firm believer in, and we've actually heard quite a bit in Money 2020 over the past 4 days, which is this concept of the platform, right? Is providing that the full stack, the ability to do that. I mean, Microsoft with Azure, you obviously do that, and obviously you're doing that incredibly well. I jokingly said at the beginning, it's nice to make money. It's even better to provide value while making it.
It's the value, right?
Oh, yeah.
And we go right to the application. So we are really launching applications. We have 2 main ones, and that's what everyone uses over and over. So it is a solution in an application stack.
So for those listening, those watching, where's the best place to learn more about the company and what you're doing?
Just go to alphapoint.com and call us from there. Email me, ted@alphapoint.com, or anyone else. Give us a call. We're always there. We receive about 100 inbound interested parties a week.
And that's the greatest way to grow. That's the sign, but that's a sign of providing value. When that volume of inbound is coming in, thank you, Ted. I really appreciate it. Paul, Everton forever.
That's right.
So here with Paul from Microsoft Azure. I think you have the coolest job title, which is Howard's boss. I like that.
Yeah.
Is that on your card? It should say
That's
that.
right. Well, everyone likes Howard, right, to start off with. So, it's being Howard's boss is a pleasure. But I agree, it's a cool job title.
So what's your actually official job title outside of that?
So I am the general manager of the industry experiences team in cloud and AI. So I sit within the engineering team, really focused on helping Microsoft customers and partners with their move to the cloud.
I like the concept though of industry experiences.
Yeah.
Because experiences is the term that we use over and over again when we talk about digital, we talk about customer engagement. It is about the experience.
Yep.
How do you define that? When I say the word experience, we're talking about financial services or technology.
Yeah. I mean, we certainly think of from end to end. So from just purely from a platform perspective. So what's the experience of building on the cloud? Allowing solutions to be innovative, allowing companies to really fulfill what they really want to around driving cloud solutions. But it goes much more beyond that. So think about communities. How do we get engaged in community? We do a lot of work at events. We do a lot of work around social. So with the changing times around how people engage and communicate, just like today, being involved in things like webinars and podcasts and blogging and so on. So that in itself, and sharing insights, sharing updates, sharing, really, how do we help people be successful? And then, just thinking about things like, fundamentally great online content. So using our product, how do you learn about it? How do you consume information? How do you build on our platform? And then also sharing, we are very much from my team about working with the partner ecosystem. So again, how do we share with our end customers, if we think about the financial services partner ecosystem, who are we working with, who are the great cloud partners that are really helping drive digital transformation within financial services.
You said something right at the beginning that I loved. You said you think about experiences as end to end.
Yeah.
And for those that are watching and listening, end to end is not linear. And you said that basically, right? End to end is actually circular and it's dimensional.
That's right.
It's taking everything to account.
Yes, it is.
When you're talking about this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it really is. I mean, you can't talk about point solutions. You can't talk about things in isolation. It really is thinking holistically. How do we help our customers and partners? Especially in the world where if you're thinking about financial services and digital transformation is so point of mind. Being relevant, driving new lines of business, so helping and thinking about that, and not only just from our perspective, thinking about cloud, but also imagining the community. How do we understand their sets of problems? How do we really start to build that empathy and build that understanding to drive a much more in-depth conversation around the industry? So in the case of financial services, how do we build that empathy? How do we build that knowledge around what are the demands? What's driving the market? What are the needs? If you even think about the disruptors with fintech, how do we make sure we're immersed in those communities so we have a kind of a finger on the pulse of what is the demand, what is the need, but who are the innovators that are driving disruption, and just really being able to be armed end to end from thinking about building on our platform, talking to our ecosystem, being knowledgeable about our industry, to really be a great collaborator with our customers and partners and add value to the conversation.
You know what I find really interesting? I was thinking as you were talking just now. So I've been coming to this event from day one. So that's 2012, if I remember right. And back in 2012, if I would have talked about the transformation you were going to see in Microsoft, right? Over that span of time. And to really become an industry leader, right? To really, to some degree, reinvent the company. The success that Microsoft has had, and the success that Azure has had as part of that, it's really a compelling story.
It is, and
you should be very proud.
We are, and at the core, I mean, I think digital transformation in some ways is an overused word, but I think if you just look at Microsoft from kind of our heritage, you think about Windows, you think about Office and so on, and we've had to transform and disrupt ourselves. So when we think about that empathy, talking to our customers and talking to our partners about disruption, we've done that. And at the core of that disruption is cloud, and in our case, Microsoft Azure. So we are really proud at what we've achieved. I think we've been very skillful and deliberate in terms of that transformation. So being planful, bringing in outside mentors to help us with that transformation, and really sort of, one of the key conversations I have when I speak to customers and partners is, this thing called transformation. What is your plan? What's driving that transformation? It shouldn't just be a buzzword where you say, hey, I need to transform and think about a cloud strategy. It should be, first of all, why do you need to move to the cloud? What is your disruption and transformation strategy, and what's driving that change? And I do believe it needs to be led by business need. Because at the end of the day, it is all about making money and showing that's kind of really the driving force behind it. I think everything else then naturally falls below that.
So it's interesting when you dig through all that, it's that concept of empathy, right?
That's right, yeah.
Which is very interesting, because when you start at the early days of Microsoft, it is software, right? Which is that is rather linear, right?
Yeah,
it's here, and it's kind of a one-way push.
Yeah.
And now you think of where you're at now, and it is it's incredibly intense technology solutions.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not understate what we're talking about when we're talking about the solutions that Microsoft provides, what Azure provides, and where this industry is going. The technology advances, the speed at which we're seeing change. That is still tech heavy.
Yes.
Yet at the same time, the human element, that empathy within the leaders of the organization, that's a skill set you have to have.
It is, and I think about a lot of conversations I have when people are thinking about cloud, and it's multifaceted. So, if you think about as you say, from a pure engineering perspective, we as Microsoft provide the Microsoft Azure platform, and we're seeing obviously great traction with that, and lots of people driving innovative solutions in financial services and across industries on that platform. And I feel we have the best of breed platform. We're enabling digital transformation through our platform, and I think we're allowing businesses to achieve much more quickly with that technology innovation. To be fair though, I spend a lot of time talking about the softer pieces, so organizational and business change. What are the right skill sets? How do I plan for projects? What are the learnings I can take? Paul, what are you seeing in the industry? What are the transformation projects that failed, and what are the learnings, and who are the ones that succeeded, and what are those key elements that you can bring in? Because people thrive knowledge. It's where innovation is great, and it's good to. We were talking earlier on about being sort of trailblazers or sort of followers, and I think cloud is a lot more mature now than it was 5 years ago.
Yes,
no
doubt.
And that's a good message to land, is that cloud's not new, and there's lots of great innovation out there on cloud. So go take those learnings. But it is those softer conversations. It's getting the business buy-in, understanding what disruption means, changes in commercialization about perhaps how you make money in the cloud versus kind of previously with on-premise solutions and annual licensing and so on and so forth. And what does just an organization look like, whether you're consuming cloud solutions or whether you're building cloud solutions? And so, as I say, I spend a lot of time with that, but my key messaging there is there's lots of learnings out there in the industry. That's a great starting point. You're not starting from kind of a, sort of that ground zero. There's lots of people that have trodden this path already, so go take those learnings. It's
kind of interesting. So when you're talking about Microsoft as a partner, back in the early days, from software to soft skills. You can have that, by the way.
Thank you.
Tag it with 11FS.
It's going to go on the t-shirt. I like it. There you go.
Yeah. Let Bill know. Just reach out to him and say, hey,
when I get back
Sam
to Redmond, Sam said, that's right.
So, hardest question I'm going to ask you as we close out.
Yep.
Greatest Everton player of all times? Come on, get this right.
Come on, who do you think?
Theo Walcott, are you kidding me? That was so easy.
Well, I will concur. Who am I to argue?
Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Fun talking with you.
wants to
Don't
go.
worry, you'll be fine.
He's very
Just
relaxed.
Tell your story. So we're on Money2020, day 4. We're with Avi from BioCatch, Howard from Microsoft Azure. If you didn't know that, because I've now introduced Howard like 80 times. Avi, how you doing? Been a good week?
Great, yeah.
Busy week, I'm imagining.
Sorry, yeah, very busy.
Well, I mean, you're in this space that everybody wants to talk about, right? You're talking about AI, you're talking about fraud. I mean, that's the hottest topic
Identity,
here.
yeah.
Yes, I think you're in a good space.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about what BioCatch is and what you're focused in on?
Right, so we started with analyzing the interaction between user and devices. And based on that, few different stuff, also like fraud detection, making sure that this is the right user. But then also identity proofing and lots of stuff around the onboarding of a new user, opening new accounts. So that's.
And in the digital age, the reality is digital identity is everything, isn't it? I don't think we've done a good job of actually defining what digital identity is.
Correct.
And I would say, Howard, as an industry, it's something we've got to kind of come to a consensus on what we mean by that.
Well, and there's so many aspects of it. So just for example, biometrics, it's about the behavior of the user and being able to track to say, based on their innate behaviors that they don't even think about on a daily basis, how they swipe, how they press hard, do they do cut and paste, and being able to build profiles on them and then compare to say, hey, is this the real person or is this an intruder? Is this an account takeover, fraudster, that kind of thing. So it's huge.
And Avi, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, when I look at that, when you're talking about the human interaction with technology, it's almost as if we're cyborgs, but I mean, that's reality, right? We're becoming more and more connected with the devices, which are going to continually change. But the good thing about that is that goes across the globe, right? Those behaviors and how you do that, the engagement for that. So when you come up with a solution, you can really solve at a global scale.
So, sorry?
When you're talking about biometrics, right? When you're talking about the interaction with technology, that's something you can look at a global scale.
Yeah, definitely.
So it definitely becomes a global type.
Yeah, so the identity is the same, right? It doesn't matter where, right? And on what platform, like for every platform is like the same identity.
Do you think, and I'm curious from your standpoint, AI has been a massive topic, as it should be at this conference, as it is others. Do you think, though, that as an industry, are we overhyping this in the short term?
That's a great question.
As far as the solutions that are going to be there? Because what typically happens is we tend to, some folks, overhype a solution, then when it's not there in the next year at the scale they thought it was going to be, we hear about, oh, well, obviously it's not there. Normally this takes a few years. I mean, you are talking about a ton of data you have to work with and input points.
Right, no, but yeah, look, this is something which already happened, right?
Yeah, it's already here.
So yeah, that's, I mean, there is still tons of stuff to do, still tons of data that are not accessible, right? And because of like legitimate reason, like privacy, etc., you can also not share it like between vendors, but I assume that is the next step, because like data is everything.
Yeah.
And AI is basically data.
And that's so true. I mean, you think about that there's so much unstructured data out there that you have to be able to distill down and make some sense of it. And so how do you make a compelling value statement of, if we reduce X amount of false positives? Because that's really what it's about at the end of the day. It's for banks, how do you throttle it? Do you want to tighten down so much where you're looking at everything? But then if you loosen too much, you could be missing things. You could do sampling. There may be a ring out there as opposed to just one person who's fraudulent. So you have there's business model implications around how you implement solutions like this.
Yeah, no, there are so many use cases that you discover as you analyze the data that you didn't even think about it before.
Yeah, that's actually a really compelling statement when you think about it. You would think at this point, as I'm going to use the word old, as mature of an industry as this is, when we talk about banking, you would have thought we would have gone through all those, I don't even think we're on the cusp of understanding actual engagement when it comes to this industry. Which, for a company like BioCatch, to me, that's actually very encouraging from that standpoint. It's also a very crowded space, though. When you talk about biometrics, when you talk about AI, when you talk about fraud, how do you stand out? What's the additional value, if you will, that BioCatch adds?
Well, as I said, everything is around the data.
Yeah.
So we have our unique proprietary ways to even generate more data. So one example is the invisible challenges. So basically, without interfering to the interaction, we still can inject challenges to the users that they respond to. And by responding to that, they actually allow us to generate more data that no one else has.
Give us an example.
Right.
Yeah, just one example.
Yeah, one example, take the cursor,
Yeah.
make it disappear for, I don't know, 500 milliseconds. What you will do, you will shake them out.
Yeah, that's actually really,
Right.
I hadn't thought about that. That's pretty cool.
That happens to me actually. Your cursor disappear, like, wait, what's going on?
Yeah, so you're, how do you engage? Do you shake the device that you're reaching on the screen, or you going to
tapping,
a
or
key?
Yeah. And like that, we have like dozens of tricks, which basically allow us to generate more data. Because again, it's all about the data.
But without really being obtrusive.
Exactly. You will not be aware at all that something happened. That's the trick.
It's fascinating.
That actually is really fascinating. Like I said, I don't think we've even gotten to the tip of where that engagement is going to take us, and especially as the devices change, right? I mean, the reality is, for example, the smartphone, that brick that we have now, that's what, a 10-year-old technology, and in the tech space, that's old. So, you know, I know this is Money2020, they got to change the name very soon, but in a couple of years, there will be the other, it's going to happen, right?
Right.
Whether it does become really bio connectivity, which I don't have an issue with, whether it just become the devices that we're wearing, the engagement between all of them, the sensors that we have, which again for BioCatch makes it even better because that's more and more data points.
Yeah, more and more data points, the interaction become richer, right? Like more sensors that produce more data, and you can see it like on the smart devices all the time. Every version you have more sensors and more data to start and analyze.
So Howard, no pressure, but then as a partner in the platform on the side, when we're talking about the cloud, we're talking more data.
Absolutely.
So that's, you know, the ease of accessibility, the speed of what you're delivering that on, the ability to capture all that. Gotta be ready to scale, baby.
Absolutely. Well, that's part of the I guess the value that we bring for BioCatch is we have a platform that can expand and can grow and can go to hyperscale as they need it, but in a very secure, in a very capable way through compliance. We work very closely with the regulators, and so that the BioCatches of the world don't have to worry about keeping up with everything around compliance. You know, the ISO 2202 or any of those type of things. We have that. We understand the industry, and it allows them to really create and expand. We just provide that horsepower and the ability to continue to build more business models on top.
Yeah, because it's challenging, right? Because like you said, Avi, there is that data privacy side. There's that human component of this, and you don't want to overstep that line.
Right.
But as we morph more and more, and we blend that the human experience with the tech experience, we all know that's the reality. I mean, I know it's Money2020, Money2025 if they rename it by then. The solutions that we see and what you're going to have to provide on those data points, the box is open. It's never going back.
By then we'll have wearables where it's just clothes. It's you can tap on anything.
Your jacket. We already have that technology.
We have that, right?
Right. You know, we see that a lot in sports. The data that's captured there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not the future. The future's here.
Sensory overload.
Again, what are we doing with the data? And how are we finding those unique use cases? But I got to be honest, in that conversation we just had, that part excited me the most. Is that just a simple example that you gave?
Right.
But then taking those and applying them to fraud, right? So actually solving real user problems.
Right.
On a global scale. That's what excites me about
Absolutely.
it. What's the best place to learn more about BioCatch? Website?
Website, biocatch.com. Lots of white papers.
Oh, good. I'm going to actually go out and read some of those. Avi, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Howard.
Thank you,
nice
Sam.
You
appreciate
again.
it. Thanks, Avi. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
Michael counts it. Welcome back to Money 2020 for our closer, our show closer, our headliner from Money 2020 Live with FinTech Insiders. I am joined by Ryan Taylor, no relation, who is the CEO of the Dash Core Group. Ryan, how are you?
Doing well, how are you?
I'm not too bad. I'm excited that we've got a whole bunch of amazing content from this show, and I'm excited to have you on the show as well, because Dash has been up to a lot lately. We were talking before we went on air a little bit about your kind of recent announcement with Uphold. So you guys have connected Uphold with your main wallet. So just remind everybody, who is Uphold and what do they allow you to do, and what's the benefit of connecting that with the Dash wallet?
Well, Uphold is a broker, very similar to what Coinbase provides, and they allow you to transition your funds between various currencies, cryptocurrencies, and even precious metals.
Wow.
And what we've done with the integration is we've allowed people to connect their bank account through Uphold services and their Dash wallet directly within the Dash wallet, and it effectively allows us to mimic the experience of using like a Venmo, where you can directly move money from your bank account into your Dash wallet and back and forth.
I think that experience that consumers are now used to has become an expectation, and crypto shouldn't be harder to use than existing banking. It should be easier, it should be better, it should be an improvement. And maybe it's been early days, and so that kind of transition is nice. But is that going to be in the Western markets, or is that going to be elsewhere that starts to take off first, do you think?
Uphold is in quite a number of countries already, and they're expanding into new countries. They're also expanding with us into kind of countries that we're targeting. We're focused on Latin America and Venezuela in particular, and so they've been adding new services to kind of move in that direction as well.
Interesting, because Venezuela, as we know, has a number of challenges at the moment, hyperinflation being chief amongst those, but there's a whole bunch of challenges for people on the ground. So where's Dash playing within that story? Is that sort of, they're bidding on crypto crazy there? Is it speculative investment, or is it something else?
Well, the hyperinflation is certainly one issue, and people are dealing with that in various ways, including buying cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin for store of value. When it comes to day-to-day transactions, Dash is really leading the market there. We have around 2,000 merchants. We're adding about 200 merchants every single week, and the growth there has just been phenomenal. And it solves a number of different problems that they encounter in day-to-day transactions that we, in a well-functioning financial system, can scarcely imagine.
Yeah.
And a couple of examples are large purchases can't be made because there's limitations on the credit card transactions. And so they literally need to bring family and friends and coordinate an event to go buy something like a refrigerator. And then they have to pay each of those people back over the course of the next week with their daily allotment that they're allowed to transfer.
It makes it just incredibly difficult to live and get around life if that's not what you can do. So how does the Dash wallet help them solve that, and what does that look like if I'm using Dash versus using the local currencies?
Well, if I have my spending money available to me in Dash, these are peer-to-peer transactions, and so I can send money instantly, which makes it viable at the point of sale, and the merchant can feel comfortable that I can walk out the door and
with the item, because
you're
not waiting for settlement, you're not waiting for the infrastructure to catch up. You've really reduced the risk. It's like that transfer has happened, and we both agree that it's happened.
Yeah, and compared with a credit card where I will get credited as a merchant 3 days later, in a hyperinflationary market, that actually costs me money.
Yes.
Because over the course of those 3 days, I am losing money every day.
Losing money every day is not a great place to be if you're a merchant. So what comes next for Dash? Are you guys going to really focus on that Latin American market and solving problems, or are there other things on the horizon as well?
We as Dash Core Group are pursuing 5 different strategies. Latin America is one of them in the form of remittances. Venezuela is a target market for us where we're really going after the merchant adoption. We are also going after high chargeback industries, and we're starting with online gaming there. We're already the exclusive cryptocurrency of FanDuel, which is a big fantasy sports area, or fantasy sports website. We're also going after cash-based industries. The cannabis industry in the United States is one of those, and Alt36 is a payment gateway that's integrating into a lot of the point of sale systems there, and Dash is again exclusive to their platform. And we're also pursuing trading. We have instant transactions, and that's valuable for traders for arbitrage opportunities across exchanges. And so we're really pushing to have our instant send technology adopted by the exchanges to enable that.
That instant send could be really, really powerful. And it's interesting that you've spotted all of these areas and there's a very clear strategy for what you're going to do with them, which is kind of different to a lot of the bigger sort of market cap coins like an Ethereum or a Bitcoin, which seem to be a little bit more all over the place in terms of their governance. Do you think that's going to be a competitive strength, or do you think actually over time those would win out because the chaos creates something interesting, or is it even competitive at all?
Well, I think putting our strategy out there has been hugely helpful for us and for attracting the right type of opportunities. What we've done is we've tried to be very strategic about where we spend our time, because some opportunities are just going to be better than others. Cryptocurrency can address certain problems better than other payment types. And so we believe by focusing there that we can basically leverage our resources better to grow the network faster. And so what that's done for us is it provides a filter on all the stuff that's incoming or the opportunities that we see, and it steers us towards this makes the most sense. And it builds an entire ecosystem around each of these opportunities. The other thing it's done is, as we communicate this out to the world, people that are involved in those industries have been actively reaching out to us at this point to say, hey, I noticed that you guys are targeting this opportunity. I think I can help. If we don't communicate those things out, those opportunities don't come to us.
It really is putting that out there so that the opportunities come in. Ryan, look, this is our show closer. This was the main event for us. Thank you so much for being on Fintech Insider and Money2020. Where can people find out more about the work of the Dash Core Group?
Well, the obvious place to go is our website, which is dash.org, and there's links there to all kinds of different resources, from our chat forums to other social media that we have, and of course, following us on social media is a great way to stay connected with the project.
Ryan Taylor.
All right.
Thank you very much. And thank you. We'll have a couple more highlight videos coming up for you soon. Stay tuned to our social. Keep listening to Fintech Insider if you want to hear everything on the podcast that came from this week. We've got the live show coming up, and we've also got the Effin' debate that we did coming out this Friday. So if you're on iTunes, make sure you subscribe and like and leave us a review. Thank you very much, and goodbye for now.